Let's take a tour of the Windows control panel for the MediaWall 4500. First we launch Internet Explorer and enter in the IP address of the unit that we're going to connect to. Typically out of the factory the address is 192.168.200. In the case of our machine today the address is 150. The Windows Control Panel downloads a Java applet from the MediaWall processor and launches it within Windows Explorer. What we see first is the virtual control screen, which shows you the current layout of the wall, where the windows are, and information about each of those windows. It also shows us the configuration of the wall. In this case it's a 2x2 configuration. During a typical setup of the MediaWall 4500, one of the first things we want to do is to go to the System tab and set the IP address, subnet mask, and gateway for the MediaWall processor. We can also set the baud rate for the serial interface and observe the alarm section for temperature and the health of the power supplies in the product. Next we can choose the output timing for the displays connected to the MediaWall processor. There are a variety of timings available to you. In the case of the demonstration here today, we're connected to a display array that has a resolution of 1920 1080 60p. You can also create custom timings and save them in the user section of the timing list. Next we can choose the type of configuration that we're going to be setting up with this wall. In the case of the MediaWall 4500, we can go from a 1x2 all the way up to a 3x4 depending on your type of configuration and how many outputs you have on your processor. We can also choose mullion adjustments to compensate for the mullions on LCD panels. If you're using 4x3 displays, you can choose that, or you can choose 16:9 to put the virtual screen in the proper aspect ratio. From here we can go to the Properties menu. We can choose the input type depending on the input card that we have installed for the input that we're going to select. The MediaWall 4500 has two types of input cards. One is for RGB DVI and component, and the second is for video rate inputs of either component, S-Video, or composite. We can select windows to set the input type simply by calling up this little menu and going from window to window to set the input type that we desire. Should you need to make any adjustments to the windows from a technical perspective, you can go back to the Setup menu and you can choose Input Timing, and you can choose timings to load manually, or you can make adjustments in, for example, RGB windows that allow you to interactively adjust the window position or to set the input timings manually and save them in a user timing list. Let's go back to Properties. Additional tabs in the Properties menu include Zoom, where you can zoom in on a picture and then you can take that window and slide it around to any location within the window. Unzooming is simple. Labels can be set, borders can be added, and the name of the label can be entered. You can also choose the color of the border, the label background, and the label font. You can also choose the size of the label. There are adjustments for brightness, contrast, saturation, and hue. Adjustments could also be made in the sharpness of the picture depending on the clarity you desire. Going back to the virtual screen, we're going to call up the Windows menu. This menu allows us to turn windows on and off. It also allows us to change the priority of the window. We can move the priority from window number 1 to window number 9 and now have window number 9 on top. Other features about the virtual screen allow you to choose a window and align it to the left, for example. We can also assign it to a full display. In this case we're going to display number 3, which is in the lower left hand corner. We can grab the edges of these windows and resize them. We can stretch the image both horizontally and vertically. and position it any place on the wall that's appropriate. Presets are available to allow you to recall settings you've made earlier that you want to use in your display. In this case, we're recalling all up. Each preset can be labeled, and you can recall up to 50 presets. Recalling a different preset changes the configuration of the wall for how that preset was remembered. A new preset can be created simply by choosing the desired location of all of the elements that you wish to display, and then selecting the Save button, followed by the preset you want to store it in, labeling it, and saying OK. Now that preset has been saved, and anytime we go back to, in this case, preset number 4, that preset will be recalled. From here we'll go to the Controls menu. The top shows us the background menu, including the various colors we can assign to a full background for the entire wall. There's also an image selection menu for the background image that we'd like to display. Background images can occupy the entire resolution of the wall. Backgrounds are stored in either compact flash, or they can be downloaded into a RAM disk of the MediaWall 4500. In this case, we have 3 JPEG files, and we can choose any one of them to load into any one of the image layers to be displayed. They can be called back manually, or they can be called back as a function of a preset. A variety of test patterns can be recalled and displayed on the wall. The Advanced WCP option includes a clock and cursor control, as well as restricted access. Another unique option of the MediaWall 4500 is the ability to operate a remote desktop. For any Windows or Linux-based computer that is connected to the MediaWall, we can identify it by its IP address, and then with the on-wall cursor we can drop into any one of those computers, and by clicking in that window we can then operate the keyboard and mouse function of that displayed computer. Encryption and password protection are also available. If you have questions about the MediaWall 4500 and would like more information about the product, please contact RGB at sales@rgb.com or call us at area code